King Queen or Ace Queen on table 1. I like checking back the flop. I think pretty dry board, but 4 people in a pot, it's not really going to be a fantastic spot to just bet through. In that situation, if I bet the flop, I would be kind of intending to like triple barrel there a lot. And the reason I say I would be triple barreling there a lot is just because I don't expect a jack to fold to 1 or 2 bets. I basically am going to have to represent a very strong hand. On table 2, let's go ahead and pause real quickly, and this is kind of what I'm talking about with crazy stuff happening. Table 2, we do get a bet from a crazy nit, and we do get a call from kind of a fish. This is a situation that looks kind of alluring to make a call, but I'm really going to argue against it. I think that, first off, the nit is never going to pay us off when a jack or a 6 comes off, but at the same time, the fish probably isn't going to pay us off either unless he's got a better hand, and there's actually, like, if the jack comes off, any queen makes a straight too. So it's important to recognize that we're never ahead here, really, and on top of that, we don't really have a lot of good cards to come. So I think that this has just got to be a fold. Once the nit decides to bet, fish calls. It's certainly alluring, but we could already be drawing dead by a jack queen. On table 4, we opened with kings. Flop came down pretty harmless, but a really good flop for this player to kind of make a move on us. It looks like he's pretty passive. This player on table 4, I kind of see that he's got a c-bet of like 38 on the flop and 25 on the turn, and he folds to 62%, 99 on the turn, over 400 hands. So this guy just looks like if he's got it, he bets, and when he doesn't, he folds. So this is a guy that I would certainly, I don't think we need to get tricky in this situation because he's not aggressive enough for me to be tricky, I guess would be what I'd say, in the sense that if I felt like he folded every time I bet here, then I would check to him, hoping he would bet. But in this situation, it doesn't look like he ever bets. So with that kind of in mind, I don't think we have any other choice but to just go ahead and bet here and hope that he has a queen and gets it in on us. So folding on table 2, I think that's got to be the correct solution. Of course, our player calls. Again, a seemingly alluring situation, but it's really, really not. 3-bet seems pretty standard on table 3. And I guess I could just preface this by saying I have not seen these hands yet, so I actually don't. On the first video, I recorded it enough times because of the damn fan. If you don't know what I'm talking about, go back and watch the first video. I had to record the audio several times because there's a fan above me that I could not figure out was making kind of a chopperish sound with the audio. On table 2, our player is considering a bluff here, trying to rep a flush. I really don't like it based off of the big fish in the pot. I think the nit will, in fact, fold here a lot, but I do not think that betting here makes much sense considering this guy seems to be a pretty big fish, and I just don't expect a king to really fold when he's last to act. So we do take a stab at it. Getting 4-bet by relative unknown seems pretty standard to just get it in with queens, but we don't, which seems cool. And case in point... and again, I have not seen this yet. So the nit ends up folding when we bet on table 2. And unfortunately, the fish like snap calls with a 10. And again, this is kind of the downfall of bluffing here. But I think he's probably feeling the wrath of like, oh, I made a mistake already. I want to take a stab at it. Really, really, really just gonna ship on that $16 on table 3 versus an unknown. I have no problem getting in queens in that kind of dynamic. Seems like a pretty nitty fold without any information on a player. And remember that if you don't have any information and you're a regular in this game, very regularly what will happen is these players are fish. Now granted, fish aren't 4-betting super duper light, but then again, his 4-bet sizing wasn't exactly great, so it leads me to believe that perhaps he is a fish by making it 1650. I would think certainly ace king is in his range. Here we get 3-bet on the button and overcalled. This is a spot where before he makes the bet, let me kind of talk about what I would generally do here. What I would generally do is make this raise size over top of this, if I were to decide to raise here, half of Lena's stack, allowing Lena to reopen the action if she decides to shove. And this puts Pistol King in a much more awkward situation and actually forces him to be a bit more transparent than he would typically be, because he knows that it's very plausible that Lena goes all in over you, saying, F it, I've got $6 left, I might as well. And then you can just ship back over top of him. So here I'm going to make it like 986, or yeah, I think 986 is exactly the bet I'm making. You could, I guess, make it 10. I think that still leaves half of the stack. But the idea here is to make it half of her size so that she reopens the action. If you make this too big, if you say make this $12 or $14 like he's looking at, all of a sudden you get in a really wonky spot where Lena does not have a half stack to re-pop you so that the betting is closed. And Pistol King actually has a relatively easy decision if he decides to flat. He knows that the action will not get reopened, and he won't have to face a shove.